Live.
We are live here at iShook Comics. I think we're gonna make a little bit of mix of a little politics with my iShook Daily. I think
I
we're gonna
don't,
mix it
I
up
don't,
in a sense.
I don't even know that it's that, but I mean,
No, but it's not right.
it's bled into comics. It's
Right.
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably not the best wording, or maybe it is, but
Yeah.
it was graphic.
Right. It is graphic. Ultimately, we are here, and just to open up the news. Let's open up the news as straightforward. So Ben is gonna open it up while I prep the back end to explain the visuals of what we're referring to. Go ahead.
Are you talking about what, the recent assassination or the comic part?
Well, first let's talk about the assassination. Obviously, Charlie Kirk was politically assassinated, right?
Yeah. So you had Charlie Kirk. He was a guy that would go out. He would speak about issues. He would engage people. Obviously, colleges have been, unless there's something wrong with you and you're like devoid of knowledge of this, they're an open forum for that. So C.S. Lewis would talk about it, about how it's universal diversity is what a university stood for. So you're hearing different opinions, different perspectives. You can engage, you can learn, you can debate. That's what a university is for. So it's the ideal place for somebody to have views, whether they're controversial, hail Satan, or this is how I feel about contraband, or this is how I feel about women voting, or whatever. The thing is, and so he was out there, and there was an enormous crowd. There were some people that didn't want him, which that's kind of trying to shut down free speech right there. The place was the appropriate type of venue for anything like he was doing, and people were asking him questions, and there was some banter back and forth. And in the midst of it, and somebody asked me, they said, "Do you want to see the video of Charlie Kirk getting shot?"
I saw it
And
multiple times in
yeah,
multiple
and
angles.
it was the most graphic shooting thing, one of the most that I've ever seen. Most of the time, somebody gets hit and there's not that much blood, and they go down. He got hit in the artery in the side of his neck, and like a stream of blood went down, and he fell like limp, like a rag doll. And people are saying, "Man, we need to pray for him." I was thinking, you're not going to live more than 5 minutes if you're hit in the artery with all that blood coming out of you. It's going to bleed you out. And he did die
Yeah,
from.
no,
So,
the
and,
shooting
and
was clear.
of course, targeted. It's not a random attack. So the man's been made a martyr essentially. So whoever did that, they've got whatever kind of ideology going on based on what he was doing, where he was at, and who he was. They're making him a martyr for that kind of cause. I'm not saying in the religious sense as much as in a political type, thing. People aren't going to forget this guy anytime soon. This is going to be talked about. It's going to blow up. It's horrible that he has a wife that is now without her husband, two little kids that are without their dad. I know several people that personally know him. There's a preacher that he's a big activist guy that lives out here in Lenore City and all that. Ken Peters, and I'm not going to say a lot about Ken. I'll say that he's very politically active. Um, so much so, he lived in Washington State, that when an abortion clinic was bombed in Knoxville, they went to him to ask him. Of course, he's not going to do that, but he's high profile for speaking out at pro-life stuff. They would have church outside of the Planned Parenthood up there in Washington, where he was from, and then he started his church, Patriot Church is the name of it, down here in Lenore City. And they have two other chapter things of it. They're both in Washington State, and they've got a school and all kinds of stuff. Their football team's doing well in Washington State. But that's Ken Peters. He is a what do they call that? Something nationalist or Christian nationalist is what they call that. So he's very like right wing, politically active, extremely, and I cannot emphasize this enough, Benny, extremely pro Israel. He got up and he was preaching about God and Israel and everything and the New Testament, and some anti-Semite got mad and walked out. Uh, you know, um, so in the King James Bible, in the Old and the New Testament,
Let me get
every,
in if you
every single person that wrote the books in there, a Jew, except for Luke, and he was a Christian convert. God has never
whatever
not
that
been pro.
means.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
whatever
I'm
that
just
means. Right. Okay.
I'm just saying. Okay. But anyway, it's a big thing. Ken is heartbroken by it. I texted him. I knew that he would be, that he knew this guy. He knows everybody and their cousin. So the reason that this even relates into comics, and that this isn't some
Well,
big political.
before we go there, let me say my shtick. Okay, before we get to the comic part, let's
Say
go
your
one
shtick.
segment at a time. You got your monologue. Let me talk my monologue. Okay,
Fair
so
enough.
it basically goes as follows. This is my theory of how he got killed. Okay, and why he got killed. All right, and I said this multiple times, but everybody be so listen to this audio. I had another audio that I couldn't find, but listen to this
On
audio.
Texas A&M, we found $1.3 billion.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay, we get a lot of echo and reverb.
Yeah, because I got
Who is this talking, by the way?
this is one of the peoples in the Congress, I think. I don't
Okay.
remember who he was, but again, this is only one of what they found undocumented. Okay, listen carefully.
You go ahead.
Dollars in undocumented money between the Qatari regime and Texas A&M. We found 502 research projects. Texas A&M gave all of their intellectual property rights to the Qatari regime. 58 projects we flagged that have military dual-use purpose. 13 have nuclear research dual-use purposes. Qatar has very good relations with the Iranian Revolutionary Regime, Hamas, and the Taliban. At Cornell University, we found $2 billion in unreported, undocumented funding going from Qatar to Cornell. K through 12, we just published a report, hundreds of millions of dollars going to create curriculum across the United States of America for children that remove Jews and Christians from curriculum about the Middle East. We did a report on Texas A&M.
So that's what Qatar has been doing. So listen to what's
happening. Break it down. Who Qatar is for people that don't know.
Okay, so Qatar is an Arab country, very small compared to Saudi Arabia and others. And Saudi Arabia doesn't do what Qatar does. They don't come to indoctrinate the world. Qatar does that. Saudi Arabia already got rid of all their brotherhood people and all these types of extreme ideological people. Now, that being said, we have to understand one factor. I found another video that says Qatar has undocumented it have donated in the past 50 years over $100 billion to, and you can fact check me on this, 2 universities. Now, this is like a work for 50 years in order to establish Qatar and to create education and dissidence to within the community of our universities, which our universities are built for education, for free thinking, right? Learning how to think, right? What ends up happening comes Charlie Kirk in the past 10 years and creates chapter after chapter universities and literally upends the $100 billion Qatar, progress within 10 years. And on top of that, brings in Trump to the fray. He makes Trump win the election. Furthermore, he has done a lot when it comes to transgender, which we're going to talk about in the next segment with the comic. He has done a lot with the transgender movement, put some reality in people's heads. He has done crazy amounts for Israel. He also criticizes Israel, which I also criticize Israel. Just because a government is part of my country doesn't mean I can't criticize my country's government. You can criticize the U.S. government. You can criticize an Israeli government. You criticize any government. Doesn't mean governments are absolute and pure righteous people, right? You have many people working there, and not every action I believe is righteous. I believe some of it is very agenda-wise and very self-centered.
Is this about Benjamin Netanyahu having his kid down in Miami while the war was going on? Is that what you're talking about?
No, there's other things.
Okay.
Now, what ends up happening? Charlie Kirk, I think, has pushed the envelope. Where in a recent, let me see if I can find this recent post, Kirk and what's it called, JD Vance.
He is so fired up that there's something like this that's made its way into comics. Comic people have been voicing things, particularly one voicing things, having a celebration that he was publicly assassinated, and so that's what this is building to. But this is the narrative of what happened and what went down, and everything with it. But yeah.
Right. So Charlie Kirk basically said in one of these forums that his goal is to get JD Vance and Marco Rubio to be the next candidates and president, to make him the next president. He said, I will make JD Vance the next president. So with all that compounded together, I'm sure there's a lot of compounded issues. I personally believe that there's a very possibility that this was supported by Iran or Qatar to take out Charlie Kirk.
Possibly.
That is my monologue for this event. I mean, I usually will do this in an iShook daily monologue.
No,
I believe that's
fine.
I believe that's really what's happening, because the
and
murder
from the comic end, that's not relevant. But what is relevant is that he died, that he was successfully murdered, and shoot, on how many ever cameras, cell phones, and everything. The man was murdered. Big public figure. It was a targeted hit.
it was listen, it was a real assassination. There's no question about it. It was a professional hit or assassination. The guy knew how to cover his face. They still can't find the guy. So it's not a simple
Oh, they've had videos, some dude running on a rooftop or whatever. I mean, all kinds of stuff. People being hauled off. Hey, it's this one. Hey, it's that one. You know, it's a mess.
it's a massive mess.
It is. Okay, so
Yeah. So but one thing I want to, okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, say what you want to say, because I was going to talk about the comic thing.
No, let's go to the comic thing.
Okay, so the reason,
let me just open up
the reason that this is even relevant within the comic sphere, that this big public politicized thing went on, is because we're living in the day and age where we have social media, and people feel extraordinarily comfortable saying anything that they want to say, no matter how harsh, no matter how ugly, no matter how vile. People have bullied people to death, all kinds of things, and then turn around and play the victim or whatever. People feel comfortable doing all that sort of stuff, acting unprofessional. We're living in a day and age more so where people, and Eric July was talking about this, where people want to know who the people are creating their comics and their cartoons and all that. So if you're going out there buying the stuff, and because somebody puts themselves out there so publicly and transparently, and you think this person's a jerk, they're a creep, I don't like the way they think about this, believe about that, the way they treat the wait staff, whatever. Because those people don't have handlers. We none do. There's no stars anymore in Hollywood, is what's said, because people just kind of show their butts, unless they're like, Tom Cruise or whoever, who's like one of the last stars. He's a true professional. He goes out there and he acts the way that he should and talks about the movies, and doesn't act like a fool in public, or on social media. So this individual, Gretchen Felker Martin, was sought out by DC Comics and has actually written several other comics prior to this, to go ahead and to write this Red Hood series. Now, Gretchen Felker Martin is a trans activist, and has written several books. And, there's people that jump to that, a trans author and all that. That has nothing to do with anything. Celebrating and glorifying over someone's brutal death, or death, where they're assassinated, that has everything to do with it. Having a party over it when it's something like that seems just really awful. But again, it's completely consistent with this person's character. So DC Comics has pulled the Red Hood comics. The first one came out yesterday. Said we're giving all the stores a credit, so we don't even want to make any money off of this. So they're doing the right thing. That's what you would do. Yeah, people have said things in comics that it's questionable, or it's ugly, or it's off kilter and all that, but it's not that extreme. So you do have some people enormous amounts of people offended by this. You do have some people that are on Team Gretchen for this. And you could say, well, they've got this issue or that issue, but here's what some of them are saying. They're saying this: you knew who it was when you hired them. This person, Gretchen, this is 100% consistent. And they don't say with the level of being a fool, but let's be honest, you're wrong if you think otherwise. With the level of being a fool, freak, whatever, that Gretchen has always been. Gretchen initially landed a book deal after talking about wanting to slash J.K. Rowling's throat open because of disagreements with certain ideologies and gender and whatever. Wrote a character in a book that murdered J.K. Rowling, and all of that really hyped up this author. Gretchen Felker on this person's social media says, I'm not brave. I'm just the C word. On another social media thing for Gretchen Felker Martin, says that I believe that the wording is that I'm, and it's this, whether I'm wording it word for word, that I'm beyond the grace of God and I walk in outer darkness. That's the, you know, and hey, that's trying to be provocative or whatever. When people tell you what they are, believe them. As what the saying is. So that's what this person, how they market themselves and put themselves out there. So, you know, no matter what you want to think of it, that's this person's tagline, that that I'm beyond the great, that I'm so vile and egregious, and that I'm a C word. And, you know, you've got DC Comics and another trans activist, trans individual that's a editor. And I guess that's the person that hired them or had something to do with that, because that's the one that was directly over them, Ariana Turturro, but was associated with this. Of course, you've got a group editor that's above Ariana, which that's really like a management position. And then you've got an editor-in-chief. You can go on to League of Comic Geeks and you can see everybody that was involved with the Red Hood books. I did read it. I didn't go out and buy one. And you know, I thought this is just so controversial and so bad, and I really feel like this is going to be pure crap. I mean, there were red flags there. The biblical phraseology that's so much in the mainstream that people use it that don't even crack a Bible open is the handwriting was on the wall. You know, you knew what it was before you picked it up, like everybody's saying, and there's the mess. The comic was overall, the story was fine. Overall, it was building up to some stuff. The artwork was very nice. The coloring was nice. There was one profanity, an F word. There were I don't remember the exact verbiage. There were 3 blasphemies, is what I would put it in as. That they're either saying God or Jesus, but they're using it in a profane way. So I'm saying those as blasphemies. Benny, lest you wonder. But either way, you had that in it. It was just a bunch of punching and kicking and stuff like that. Otherwise, there was no blood, gore, nudity, sexual stuff, or anything like that. So that's what the first book was, with Red Hood and a few other characters. It's set in like a New Orleans place. I hate it for the artists. I hate it for DC. I feel like if you're being hired by a place, and not just hired by a place and acting that way at some point in time, and you've got this book out that they've paid all this marketing for and that they've paid you money for, and the book literally is launching on the same day that that this assassination happens, and it's like, I'm just going to be the biggest piece of crap in the world and say this on the day that my book is launching. That's the mess that you have, and there's so much blow up that DC's like, we're pulling the plug on it. And most people are happy with that. I think that there's not really a lot more that you could do in that situation. And I do sympathize with DC in some sense, because here's my thing. We've all been in situations where we think this couldn't possibly be this bad. This couldn't possibly be this ugly or this dirty. And we go into something and we find out that it's at least that bad or worse in our life. I've been there. You know, so I'm not going to throw a stone at DC for that. They thought, hey, controversial artist, whatever, but this is going to go fine. It's going to sell, some kind of hype, whatever. You don't think that someone's going to be assassinated, and that they're going to say, "I hope the bullet was okay that hit Charlie Kirk," and calling him a Nazi bee. Um, so that's what happened. But again, take Gretchen's own words, irredeemable from the grace of God, which I don't necessarily, or maybe, I mean, you'd know more than I would. That would mean that you were turned over to a reprobate mind, biblically, is what that would mean.
So I want to share with you with the audience here how X works. So this is the X Pro X when you sign up.
Okay.
Literally, so last time I did a whole research about this is our profile, Grok regular mode. Okay, we're asking a crazy amount of questions, and you could see the posting just on Charlie is almost instant here. Right now, they talk.
It's enormous. It's
It's
everywhere.
enormous.
Everybody's talking about
So
it.
you
It's
see
blowing
this,
up.
and then you have the top posts here. Once again, Bullet was silenced, the most eloquent truth teller of the era, my dear friend Charlie Kirk.
Mm.
Literally everybody has been quoted. What I did notice,
Now
and I
this
said,
is your
I
this is
actually,
yours, right?
yeah, no, this is the public arena when it
Okay.
comes to now. What I did say, what I didn't notice, and very interesting, uh, with the Charlie Kirk situation, right? I did mention myself to Adam. I'm like, the reality is, you have now three of the biggest martyrs in U.S. history. You have our good friend. Let's see if we can do this view better. We have our good friend. You have JFK.
Yeah.
You have MLK, and then you have CK. Okay. I personally think out of all three, the most righteous of them all is CK, Charlie Kirk. He's a person who's a Christian. He was believer. He was a believer of Judaism. He was very staunch, very against Islam. He was pro-Israel, not pro-Palestine. He didn't mention there was no Palestine. And there's a lot of people now. There are a lot of Muslims, by the way, Islamists, who really went against Charlie Kirk in public arena.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I just love history and know history. So I mean, I would agree with you there. And I know that there's somebody that they glorify MLK. He went out on his wife a lot of times.
Yeah.
The man had some good points. He had some virtues to him, but there were some serious chinks in that armor. And I mean, and I don't know all about Charlie Kirk's life, but he seemed like a man that loved his family, loved God, loved America. It don't matter if you think like him or not. I mean, he was just there talking about his point of view and willingly engaging anybody and going to have a conversation.
No doubt. But there's another, what's it called, another podcast, not maybe not podcast, or another social media kind of thing out there, that with this guy did a whole thing that shows that MLK is actually a what's the right word, he's actually uh he was actually a Marxist.
I thought
He
you were going
was,
to say communist. I thought that was the
yeah,
word.
communist
Yeah.
Mark, yeah.
I've read the Communist Manifesto, and he quotes that a lot. He says the word bourgeoisie a lot, and now they call like being fancy like upper middle class bougie.
Right.
But yeah, that's in the Communist Manifesto a lot. The bourgeoisie,
Right.
and all that. That's the ruling. If you own property and you rent to people, you're in the bourgeoisie. So you're kind of like a baron. You're kind of like the lower nobleman class because you own property and you rent to people and all that, or you have a small business or whatever. There's different ranks. That was called a landgrave here in America, by the way. They didn't use like baron, duke, duchess, and all that. They had their own words for it in early America.
Yeah.
I read a lot. Go ahead.
That's good. I personally think we have now a problem here in our country where we have, let's do the review first on the and I want to give a point of view of what I think about this comic creator. What's the comic creator's name?
Gretchen, last name Felker hyphen Martin.
Yeah, but that's not his real name, right?
I do not know Gretchen Felker Martin's birth name. Also, what trans people call their dead name. That's the terminology for real. Because presumably that was not the given name from birth, but it was that either that's a pin name or it was legally changed to Gretchen Felker Martin.
Is this the person?
This is yeah, that's Gretchen.
So this is Gretchen Felker Martin, a Massachusetts-based horror author and film critic. She was born in New Hampshire in 1989 and is openly transgender. She called Charlie Kirk after he was assassinated. But she was transgender from girl to boy or boy to girl.
Boy to girl.
Yeah. Listen, the reality is, let me explain something to you. I don't care what anyone says. If you are transgender, they already title being transgender as something like mentally ill, right? Therefore, you have to be transgender, right?
It's you're talking about gender dysphoria.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it, yeah.
So if they're already creating a psychological uh, personification of this person, right? It's clear that people who are transgender,
Oh, that's like the stamp, like coming out the
yeah,
gate.
mental
It's
issues, mental issues.
so like J.K. Rowling. I'd heard about J.K. Rowling. Some people said I thought it was like an old man that was like writing these books because that's like if you hadn't seen J.K.'s picture, she's really nice looking, by the way. But if you hadn't seen her picture, it's just on the merit of a writer. But Gretchen doesn't come out on the merit of a writer. By the way, the book Manhunt, which is one of the more famous books, you see how they got the sack with the balls in it, kind of like it's a
Disgusting.
part of the male anatomy. What that book's about? It's a horror book. Let me break it down to you because I know what it's
Sure.
about, and it's got a lot of sex scenes in it. It's about these trans people, male and female, um, surviving this apocalyptic thing. So here's the deal: there's this virus that's taken over, and anybody that's a man, because you got all this testosterone, it turns you into this sex crazed animal, and you get like these spiky thorns on your penis and testicles, and you basically rape all women to death.
That's
And
disgusting.
so men are evil, and testosterone makes you into a red meat eating sex fiend, and that's what the book's about. And so you've got this person that is a biological male, and they're taking all this estrogen stuff, right? Trying to keep the chromosomes or whatever working and be more like a femme or whatever, so they don't turn into this monster and kill their friends. That's what the book's about.
Okay, so let's talk about the
That's
fact.
that is a genre, by the way. LGBTQ horror
Okay,
that is
that's not
specifically
horror.
geared for that.
That that
I'm just telling you that's
okay.
what the genre. Go ahead.
Thank you for educating us. No, not non. Okay, so talk about this. Let's discuss DC. What was DC contracting this person to do? Um,
Right, Red Hood.
right, Red Hood. So everyone who knows Red Hood, it's about Batman, Robin. Robin becomes the Red Hood. He becomes alive from the what was that? The pool of
Lazarus Pit.
Lazarus Pit. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
it's one of the most
one of the
iconic.
four Robins.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's one of the most iconic stories, right? In the
Yeah.
Batman, in the
I'm
Batman.
not I'm not counting the or am I counting the girl? I don't remember. But you know what I mean. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Jason Todd, I believe, is Red Hood.
Right, Jason Todd. Yeah. Okay. So now, question is, what happened here? So DC contracts this person, this guy. Okay, I'm not gonna call it a girl because then it's whatever. This specimen of a half a human who disrespects the death of people. By the way, in Judaism, it's the most worst thing to do, to talk ill of a dead person. The worst thing to do, honestly. Anyway.
Well, it was reveling in it, and so in the Bible it talks about you're not supposed to rejoice even when something happens to your enemy unless that kind
Yeah,
of
you're
thing
not supposed
befalls
to.
you.
You're
It's
not
not good.
supposed to you're not supposed to yes, rejoice, create like a party. Oh, I destroyed my enemy. No, 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 no. You're not supposed to have flaunt your success over your enemy, right? And even so, listen, we live in America. You can be a crazy person who thinks he can mutilate his body to make himself a different genre of a person, right? with that being said, what disrespect can you have to a person who has a right to go to campuses and advocate for
It's about free speech right there. Hey,
yeah,
I just sent you a
pulley
link.
pelt, pulley
Uh,
pulpit, right?
I sent you a link to League of Comic Geeks, to the page. It just says the people, because you're asking like who's who and who's what, and so it says writer, artist, editor, all that.
Okay, so this, let's just share this tab for a second.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is it, right?
So that's the cover right
Okay,
there.
let's go
So
for one second. Let's go for 1 second. Let me just change our
you walk through it. It's self-explanatory. It says who does what.
all right. Let me just change our settings here.
Make that bigger. Make us smaller so people
Obviously,
can.
obviously, obviously. Yeah. I'm switching it. 1 second. If it lets me switch, there we go.
Okay.
Actually, I don't like it this way. Let's go back this way. Much
Okay.
better.
Yes, much better. So that's one of the several covers. They had some variant covers, and that's still available. Stores still have them, or whatever. But DC has refunded, did a credit on all that. They don't even want to make money off of that. So that was the first issue of 5. So right there at the top left, that's Gretchen. And then let me click over on my screen where I'm looking at the thing where I'm seeing it bigger. To the right of that, you got an artist, no photograph, Jeremy Spokes, and then Becca Carey's the letterer, and then next to Becca is Ariana Turturro, and that's the editor. So that's the person that was working directly with Gretchen, presumably the one that wanted to have Gretchen hired, but I don't know that. It could have been Rob Levin, who's beside Ariana. Rob is a group editor, which means Rob is Ariana's boss. And then below that, you've got a cover artist, again, Jeremy Spokes. And then you've got the editor in chief. The editor in chief, Marie Jervins, is Rob Levin's boss in this case. So that's the hierarchy. So the boss is the supervisor is Ariana. And then Ariana's boss, like the department manager, is Rob. And then just say store manager for all practical purposes, is Marie. That's the hierarchy that's involved in this. So anything that Gretchen would be doing, putting in the book, all that. And again, I've read the book. The issue isn't with the book per se, even though straight out the gate, Gretchen said, I've not ever read a Red Hood thing, which, I mean, you can bounce around with that, because I mean, if somebody asked me, hey, will you write this? I would deep dive something. I would get into it. I'm too much of an orator. I know what to say. I wouldn't get up and say, I've never even read that. You don't say, that's poison. You don't say that. There's certain things that you say to be encouraging, to promote, and some people get that. Scott Snyder, he knows what to say and how to act. This is the way you talk about this thing, because you're selling that book.
Right. I'm reviewing here on the X Pro. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Question is, and then what happened with her? He, she, be, whatever it is, whatever this individual is. DC clipped her, right?
DC canceled the rest of the books, so that's over. Now, will someone ever pick up this Gretchen person again and be like, man, this is fire? I don't know. They called it failing upward in comics. Somebody does something bad. This is destructive bad. DC's lost a bunch of money. Yeah, and so they're handling it externally, which you can only assume that they're handling it internally as well. So all of these editors are talking to each other about how can this kind of bull crap never happen again. There's a certain way to conduct yourself, especially during the run of your book, like your book just comes out. So Spokes, the artist, is supposed to be going to, we've got issues in Canada, that's a comic book store, to do a signing and everything. I don't know what's happening with that, if that's still going on or not. I'm really not too fluent on Canada. I went there once as a little kid. but wherever that is in Canada, going to We've Got Issues, look on his website. It says all that there. Um, but yeah, he's got that going on his website. You can buy original art. A lot of artists do that from this book. So like the real art, the real ink things, not just the scans that they've used and all that. They run about like $200 a page or something, and maybe they'll increase in value, maybe not. This book's become like a hot topic and everything, but that's not really what you want people talking about for your book. You don't want them talking about this writer is such a creep or such a jerk or such a bigot or such an activist or psycho or whatever. You don't want that. You want people to be talking about the book and the stuff in the book and wow, this happened and wow, that happened, and not the way that the author's going out there living their life. Did you know that this author is dating so and so or into this or into that's not what you want. You want the book. That's what matters. So in church or in the synagogue, and I'm just saying this comparatively, me or you is supposed to be pointing to God, not, hey, look at me. That with a writer, it should be that way too. Look at this book. It's not about you. You're trying to push this thing.
Right. And then if you see over here, there's a lot of hate. Like a DA from Montana said Charlie Kirk should have been killed or something like that. Attacking Charlie after he was assassinated.
You've got people saying both sides, and if you wanted to see the most hateful rhetoric on Charlie Kirk, you would go on to Blue Sky because there's a lot. If that's where if you were wanting to fish for stuff that's favorable.
Well, I'm sure he knew he pissed off a lot of people. I mean,
well, yeah, he's really outspoken. He wasn't shy. He wasn't bashful. He conveyed himself like well and was articulate in the things that he said. So he was competent with getting up to speak. And people don't like that oppose somebody's opinion that they're competent. That's why they killed Socrates. Have you ever read The Apology of Socrates?
No, actually.
Socrates.
Maybe I did. No,
Socrates was told by the Oracle of Delphi that he was the most brilliant man in the world, and he didn't believe it. So he would go around to different experts in their field, finger quotes, and he would talk to them about the things that they were supposed to know about. If it was a lumberjack or whatever, or a goldsmith, he would talk to them about the things that they were supposed to know about. And he would know staggeringly more about it than them, so much so that it made them all look like idiots. And rather than them thinking, I need to improve myself, they hated his guts. And so everybody wanted to kill him because he's making them look stupid. And you had a bunch of these young guys and they would follow him around. He was basically like, how Ben Shapiro would like shut people down, and you've got people like, man, he made them look like a fool. It was that back in that day. So they would go so they could just have a heyday with it and laugh and party when he made somebody look stupid about something that they, supposedly like beating their chest were smart in. And they told him, if you would just shut up, we'll let you live. And his answer was, in short, no. That's what The Apology of Socrates, all that's about. It strikes me funny, the book does, that that he's just like, what he's like, I won't shut up. You won't find another one like me. I'm like a gnat fly that's trying to wake you from your sleep. That's what he said.
Wow.
Great literature. It's on Audible, by the way. If anybody likes to listen to audiobooks, you can like chill and like listen to that if you're into that type of thing. But I love it. It's a hoot.
I mean, I'm seeing through all these posts. It's crazy what's going on in society today.
You want to talk about the other comic that I read that I was reading for the
review?
what's
the other? Let's see the other.
Because it is a vigilante comic. Now this ain't DC. This is Marvel, baby. We got. Is it gonna? Yeah, it's gonna do it. The Punisher Red Band #1.
Let me see. Punisher
Red Band. And that's RED / band, like a music band. BAND.
Right here. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, #1. That'd be it. Yeah, I have a different cover in mind, but they've got those below. But that's it. So this is going to be a 5-part series too, I believe, and it just came out on Wednesday, yesterday. So it just came out the same day as the Red Hood thing, and so they brought Frank Castle back. Marvel has, by popular demand. And Red Band, it comes in like a plastic bag when you get it because it's supposed to be like all MA and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and give spoilers on this. I'm wearing the hat, might as well. Regarding the rating on it, there is no language. They Qbert speak it. You know what I mean? How they've got like a pound sign, exclamation point, question mark, asterisk, whatever, instead of like the foul word. Every single time I would presume that it would be the F word, by the way. But they've got that. They've got no like blasphemy talk in it, no sex scenes, nothing like that. It's just pure bloody violence that gives it its MA rating. It's totally appropriate, totally works with the story. They're not trying to overdo it. The villains that you see in this one, and it's winding up towards bigger things, is Tombstone and the Kingpin. And so Punisher's come back. He has some stitches on his head. Something's happened to his brain. We get it implied that the Kingpin has done something to him. At the end of it, it says Punisher activated. The Kingpin cares about New York City. You know this is in your town, Benny. He cares about New York City. He was the mayor of New York, but he can't take care of all the scum and everything in New York as the mayor. So he's going back to his old ways. He's a gangster. He's a mobster. He's a crime boss over crime bosses. He's high up stuff. Let me tell you about a scene that people might find provocative that I liked in it. You have a Catholic priest, and he's there in the confessional. You know how the booths are and all that. We've all seen them on TV. I've never been in one. I mean, I've visited a Catholic church like once or whatever. That's not how I've been raised. And so somebody's in the confessional. It's the Kingpin. Hint, hint, hint. It doesn't show you that right off. And he's like, I'm not here to repent of anything. This is more about you. And he starts off with some nice talk, which smooths it. It's like how you start off with, here's the good news, but we're going to get to the bad news. And he's like, I appreciate the good things that the Catholic Church has done. He talks about hospitals, yada, yada, yada. But then he tells this piece of crap priest, he says, but I know that you've been trafficking women and men and children into this city. I want you to reach under your seat. It's a gun. And he says that I've called the law and I've called the diocese and they're coming for you, sucker. And you can meditate on this like a rosary. And the priest, it doesn't show it, but he blows his brains out and kills himself rather than being taken down by the law in the confessional. I'm a fan of that. But anyway, so it is MA. It's a really good start. The artwork is good. The story's good. Everything about it, high marks, totally all across the board. I found no fault with this book. Highly enthused, waiting to get the other books in the series. Thumbs up. Again, I don't even know how I would rate something with a 10, but it's at least a 9 point something. This book is. It has no faults. It has no flaws. They have a little thing from the writer at the end that talks about how they became a Punisher fan, had read Punisher comics, were first introduced to the Punisher through the 1990s Spider-Man series, which I used to love to watch. And yeah, he does come off well in that. He's got the battle van and he's a go-getter. So that's a good introduction to the Punisher that they saw him in that, because he's, but I liked it a lot. Highly recommend. Again, there's nothing in it except for bloody violence, some open wounds and dead bodies and burning bodies and stuff like that as the only things that would give this like a rating. So in Gretchen's book, and I just want to say this for the difference as a writer, there's a lot of people in life that like want to show how bad they are. It's like if I go around and if I like cuss and cuss and cuss and cuss and cuss, people think I'm a tough guy. That's really pretty well never the tough guys. I mean, sometimes, but the tough guy doesn't have to go around and try and act tough or tell people how tough they are. And I mean, I think in writing that you can be profane without using profanity. Now, I'm not saying that it was in excess. This wasn't like a Tarantino movie or whatever, but the Punisher yet had stuff in it because of the blood and the gore and violence. But just like Ringo Starr, who's known as like a song drummer that just does what's good for the song and doesn't like push it and think, how much stuff can I squeeze into this? God bless him. I like the Beatles, but that's the way the Punisher was. Gretchen's thing, you know, you had some punching and some kicking and some headbutting, but there was like the language and all in it. And again, it wasn't massive amounts. I've read things that have like way more, like to the point, and like what in the world. And they could have. It was MA, but they didn't do that with it. So I mean, that's how these books stand apart in my mind. The art's excellent in both of them. The storytelling is excellent in both of them. But I mean, really and truly, just on the story and everything alone, the Punisher one does it for me more than, you know. He starts out wounded. He wakes up and he's bled a lot, and it's like, how did I get here? And he's got an Uzi in his hand and all that, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. He doesn't remember his name, all that. So it's kind of like a what happened, and it's winding up for that. Tombstone really tears some people up. He's a tough, imposing character. Supposedly, he's going to be in the new Spider-Man movie too, Kingpin and Tombstone, which I would like very much. I like both of those characters. I really like the actor that plays Kingpin anyway. I think that he's amazing. Really quick too, and I don't know. I almost think that I don't know what Tombstone is supposed to be like racially, but I mean, I kind of would probably cast him as a black guy. He's an albino regardless, mind you, but I would probably like have a black guy play Tombstone. I think that would be cool, but he's an albino regardless. He doesn't breathe. He's got all of his teeth filed into points. If y'all don't know what he looks like, he's maybe like 7 foot or something. He's tall.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next segment.
Okay. So yeah.
I am filled with light you cannot vanquish. I am the beholder. But I am also Marie Battelle.
Basically, Victoria comes off just like that when we're having an argument.
So I think this episode is interesting. I gave a quick clip. Yeah, it's worth watching. Do I like this episode of Star Trek?
Weird. It's weird.
It's not. It's not. How do I explain it? Star Trek never went into the God world or spiritual world, and you know what I mean by the God world, right?
A little bit they did and they didn't, but this is way more sci-fi. So
No,
you've got
this
the, you
is
got
more-
the alien that's like a
I
Greek
think this
god
is no, but I
in
think
the
this
original.
I think it's more mythological than it is sci-fi. It's the first time they actually touched in this episode more mythology and ancient
Well,
civilization.
They kind of had with the other ones.
It's like
that it was a
Discovery.
demon-y
The
thing.
last series of the last season of Discovery was more, ancient civilization.
Yes, it was, and that kind of goes into that too because they're talking about creation.
Right. But that ancient civilization was more technological.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't spiritual where they're forming and they have these internal powers, right?
Yeah. Can I let me just say a spoiler, but that I like that they didn't have those aliens make that, but that was already made because I wasn't wanting them to try to be like, oh, well, this
Yeah,
is
that's
like
not necessarily
God.
spoiler like that.
But
no,
no, that was
no one
cool.
can figure out really what you're saying.
And they pulled that from a Next Gen episode, that season because they talked about that.
Okay.
Yeah, with those aliens, it was just like a one-off episode, which some of the better things are done that way. Like the Wrath of Khan movie was taken off of the original series Space Seed, which is a great.
You know what's so funny? You mentioned the Star Trek movies. They're not making that many anymore. They used to be when Picard was out, like Star Trek Next Generations. They made a lot of movies off that show.
Do you know, because you're talking about the Charlie Kirk thing, and somebody's got up and did commentary on it. A lot of these actors are really voicing stuff like hate-filled, spewing, bigoted stuff that are kind of celebratory over his death, like Tuvok and different people. Do you know who's exercising some class in the midst of this?
Who's Tuvok? What do you mean? Who's Tuvok?
The black guy that's a Vulcan, and I forget what series is it.
Oh, in Janeway series, no?
Yeah, Voyager.
Voyager.
So there's a bunch of them that are carrying on, and I don't know what everybody's did, but I've heard like 3 or 4 names mentioned. That again, quit showing your butt on social media to people. But do you know who's exercised some class about this and acting proper and all that? Your Jewish brother William Shatner,
Well,
the original captain. Yeah.
yeah. Well, most Jewish people listen.
Mm.
Jews
I
are
like William Shatner.
Jews are very liberal, by the way, right? Like very liberal. The Reform Jews, the non-religious Jews,
Mhm.
very liberal. But you got to understand one thing: no Jewish person. We understand the concept of assassinations. I mean, one of the biggest. By the way, one of the biggest assassinations was Prime Minister Rabin. They saying that it was a Mossad hit. You know, there's also conspiracies on his hit. It wasn't just this Orthodox guy that just got close to him and shot him. There was actually testimony where the woman said no, he actually missed him, and there was no blood. And they saying that he was killed in the ambulance. It was a whole hit job, government hit job, because he was going to give parts of Israel, like huge parts of Israel, away. Whatever it is, listen, you can live in conspiracy theories your whole life, but the reality is that assassinations and political assassinations, and I said this in one of my community chats. I said political assassinations create world wars. World War One started because of a political assassination.
It destabilizes, is what
Yes,
it
it
does.
destabilizes. But one thing that you're going to see about the Christian community is they're not going to take this Charlie Kirk thing and they're going to start rioting in the streets. No justice, no peace. Like someone said, one of these commentaries said, I think in one of these news channels. What you're going to see now, I apologize, we're exhausted. What you see now is it's going to be a revolution. I think there's going to be more Turning Point USA chapters now, more than ever.
He's a martyr now. They've made him bigger than he, because you can't kill an ideal. They have amplified his voice and made him monumentally bigger by doing it. Like Martin Luther King, who you mentioned earlier, like JFK. You're constantly hearing and seeing. If they weren't killed, they would. They weren't that big of a deal. They were and they weren't. You know, that big of a deal as they became after they were martyred. I
Yeah, they
mean,
became infamous.
they said it was like I'm going to make them into a symbol. So I did a lot of studying on Lincoln, and Lincoln has his good and bad points. But what happened when Lincoln died is people made him into a symbol. They made him into something larger than life. Like he's this dude that never did any wrong, which you know that can't be true.
Right.
But they made a narrative of what they wanted it to be, and then like we can stand behind this. Because the guy living that you could see if he messed up, or that his wife was like bat crap crazy, and she was, she committed herself to a mental institution. But they a lot of stuff went on. They had spiritualists down there, and they were doing seances and everything in the White House. But Lincoln, when he died, they made him larger than life. They took his body on this enormous tour, like through the United States, and had like the casket and everything to celebrate how great Lincoln was. And there was a dude kind of like the Gretchen of the day that was like, I'm glad the SOB got it, and a crowd beat the guy to death in the middle of the street. I think that was in Pennsylvania, it seems like. But no, there was crazy stuff that went on with like, let's keep building this bigger. Somebody's talking about it before about the Lincoln the memorial, you know, where they've got him like sitting up on a throne type thing, and they've got that bundle of arrows, and they were talking about what that means. I think it's from Rome or something, but it's like a symbol of like power and strength and stuff like that. But no, there's when somebody gets killed like that, when they get assassinated, when they're made into a martyr for whatever cause, that they talked about that in Star Trek, Benny, with the Klingon War. They're like, if we kill this guy, he'll be a martyr and the war will never stop and it'll be infinitely worse. But if we can capture him alive and break him, that would be so much better for the Federation. That's the difference in what you're doing.
Right. I think it's just crazy where we are now and how this spills over to comics. And I never, I believe comics should be neutral from these things.
People want it for escapism. They do. But when you've got creators and somebody's following them because it's like, I like this writer, right? and they're following them for that, and then the person's just like, bleh. You know, I'll periodically let my life like bleed over with stuff from other things. You know, I mean, I'm not hiding that I'm a preacher, that I've written all these Southern gospel songs or whatever. But if I've got a page and if comics is what I'm pushing, or horror literature or whatever, you know, then that's what I'm going to go on there and have people hear about. Because it's like if you go to a restaurant and it's like a chicken restaurant and somebody tries to shove fish down your throat, you're like, I'm not here for fish. This is a chicken place. You know, you give the people what they want, but no, you can totally be yourself. But again, there's always a line where something's like inappropriate, you know?
Right. No doubt.
Yeah.
So I want to see something right here. Tim Pool is saying, let's just watch him for a sec.
Okay. I'm hearing no sound.
Oh,
Is there like a little speaker button that you can click like it's muted on his window?
no. It's something I have to share differently. 1 second.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I don't know how to do that, or I'd be sharing stuff, but it's like I've tried like once way back when it didn't come through. Okay.
Here we go.
High-profile
Perfect.
politicians.
Good, I hear it. Perfect.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I just lost it.
Prominent liberals who have condemned the violence. Many of the high-profile Democrats have, and I respect that. Give a shout out to the handful of, without naming them, because I don't seek to. So you have the tacit liberal, Charlie got what he deserved attitude, and then you have the overt leftist, we're coming for the rest of you. I will give a shout out to the handful of prominent liberals who have condemned the violence. Many of the high-profile Democrats have, and I respect that. Without naming them, because I don't seek to embarrass them. Some of these young liberals crying on camera over Charlie's death, talking about how bad it is. But with all of that being said, it's the sentiment we are seeing reeks of an untenable bifurcation in the body politic. We have said it on this show many times. Where is the off-ramp? And unfortunately, and one of the most terrifying comments that I got was, Charlie Kirk was the off-ramp. He held debates, and he succeeded at those debates. And were his methods to have been permanently successful, the course of politics in this country was rooted in having a conversation. Across Louisville, there are graphics that have been drawn up in less than a day of pictures of Charlie Kirk that say, debate this, with blood spraying from his neck. I refuse to watch the videos of these people advocating for my death and the death of other people, because I know it will just make me angry, and I already factually understand these people exist. I just fear that there is no backing down, and the only thing I can say is every direction I look and have looked over the past several years, this goes in one direction. But I'm curious now what y'all think.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does feel like from the right wing's perspective that a Rubicon was crossed. I mean, John Doyle had a viral tweet.
Yeah, it's really bad. So now, with this thing is about trying to silence, and that's why I'm happy that DC, knocked out this person.
Yeah.
Because we don't need this in the comic world. The point of the comic world is to come out of reality, right? Like, give me like 10, 20 minutes. Let me read a comic, get into, like you said, escapism.
Yeah.
But then when you have a person like this guy, Gretchen, I don't know, Gretchen, whatever his real name is, it's problematic.
Yeah. Rural, New Hampshire is where Gretchen is from. So somebody's went to school with Gretchen in rural New Hampshire and all that. But, I've not seen it online where it is. And I've listened to several interviews, and Gretchen talked about some kind of mental illness, suffering from and all that. I forget the names and all that. But there's a bunch of interviews. With the horror book Manhunt is where you find a lot of those from, because like this comic, it's fresh and out, and so that was pushing that horror book, which I knew about from like back when, because I've worked a lot with the splatterpunk community. You know, I mean, I've wrote some like really violent horror stuff. But you know, you can do that and you can be like a normal person because you're just telling a story. Stephen King's it. He's not like going around. Stephen King's not going around in the sewers dressed like a clown because he's writing stories like that. You know, you're just writing a story. But Gretchen's whole take again is, I'm not brave. I'm the C word. I'm beyond the grace of God, and I walk in outer darkness. That is Gretchen's pitch. This is how I'm selling myself. This is what you're getting here with the package. And there's some people that would be on fire for that. You know, I saw Image Comics today. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But Image Comics today had a thing about how, don't you just love it when people like rebel against the divine? And what's your favorite story of that? You know, we're just, it's that you probably feel the same way that I feel about. I like redemption stories because that's a story of a fall. If you're departing from I believe that because I believe that God's real and that He's sovereign and that He's perfect in all of His ways. So if God has an opinion, and if I have another opinion, or God has an opinion, Benny has another opinion, you know who's right? Like always, that's never God. Yeah.
No, but you can't say God has an opinion. God is the fact. So let's end the show at this moment. Yeah. So I want to just finalize our announcement here. We have our gift card. We have already how many? 26,000 entries. Yeah, let me share the tab. 26,000 entries. I have 0 entries because I'm not part of I can't be part of the. We have 8 days left. So we're gonna announce it hopefully after the high holidays of my high holidays, Rosh Hashanah. So yeah, so I'll give you the date when we're gonna announce the winners.
Very good, Benny. I appreciate you, man.
No, I
You know,
appreciate you too, and
this has been a harder hitting show because, you know, all this mess and debacle again. Hats off to DC. I feel like they're doing well at it. You know, that doesn't make it easy when you get somebody that's going rogue on you and acting that way, like that gravely inappropriate, not just, hey, here's my thoughts on something, but being like absolutely vile about somebody who just got murdered. That's not cool. That's a terrible thing. And it's not like it was said in a room with friends or whatever. Throw it out there for the public, for everybody to catch and everybody to see. That's going to blow up in your face. You know, when I work at places, you know, all kinds of different places, you're going to wear these kind of shoes. You're going to wear a uniform. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to be a good reflection on the company. So when people come through there, you're not looking trashy, that you're, you know, you look appropriate for what you're doing. You're presenting yourself. And even though somebody's a writer and even though it's remote and all that, you need to present yourself in a way that's becoming to that company, particularly when the book is on its run and coming out right then. You need to do that for that place. Have enough respect for DC Comics. Again, and you know, somebody might say, hey, I shill for DC. I like DC Comics. I'd like for DC Comics to do well. Do I read every book that they have? No, but if something interests me, I read it. I have Dan Jurgens' Batman Second Night on my
Ben,
full list. Looking forward
Ben,
to it.
honest, love it, bro. Love the conclusion. I gotta go. We're gonna do hopefully another maybe midweek next week another podcast. You know, I want to get my reviews out for a few comics I read. So, and I also want, you know, let's talk more. Let's talk more. We got to talk more about what comics should be and not what they are now. All right, everybody. Thank you.